Yeah, I think that's what we need actually. So I don't know if people will ever do that, but we've had some serious sites, Studico, Chegg, or others that people pay for the answers to be done. Chegg, prior to this, guys, and I've stopped doing that. Prior to this, I was the head of program for employment relations for the IIE on a contract basis. And the ones we had loaded the assignment on the Monday, on Tuesday, a full set of answers had been loaded onto Chegg. It was quite disturbing, really concerning. So we need to just be very, very careful. Right, let's do this. So, Richard Branson, I think the moment I see Richard Branson, I am 100% certain I'm going to ask something on charismatic leadership, but let's see. Right. So the first one, yeah, it's an interesting one. And it is such a wonderful example. And I now remember this case study because it was selected specifically for this. So if we look at what a high performance team is, so we're looking here at, let me find my slides. So we're looking at Learning Unit 3, Team. Let me try that again. Theme 1. When your lecturer can't talk. High performance teams. I know it's somewhere here, guys. Where is high performance? Control F. Performance. Okay, clearly not in here. So what have I done? Oh, because I'm looking at the wrong learning unit, dummy. Sorry about that. Performance. Oh. Okay, let's just quickly look for high performance teams. High performance teams. Okay, so the first one, and whoever wants to find it in the textbook can also share it in the chat with us. So the first one is essentially Learning Unit 2. Thank you so much, Neil. Learning Unit 2, and it is slides 14. And I think there are other bits and pieces as well. Slide 14. And then, yeah, so you'll look at slide 14. So the first thing about a high performance team is the idea of complementary skills. So it is always going to be about having a vision, having a clear future, sorry guys, I've got messages coming through from students. I just want to see if it's not people asking me. What? Thanks for doing that, Deirdre. I've seen you posted the link as well. So in terms of your high performance teams, this idea of complementary skills, but also a vision, I think for me, that vision that is linked to the overarching vision of the organization is important. I've spoken about when we did this, the idea of mission directed teams, which essentially creates a little mission statement for the team that is linked to the vision and the mission of the organization. And I think in terms of these common work methods, what we also see is that this is often agreed within the team because you can't impose what people should do and how people should do it when you've hired highly competent, highly intelligent, and people who you believe are talented, because it's imposing. And I think it restricts creativity, it restricts the idea that people actually are valued in terms of their opinion. So if we look at those criteria, so the first one is this idea of a recognized performance need. So a successful team realizes very rapidly that in order for the organization to be fantastic, we need to be fantastic. There's this sense of we are responsible for our own work, accountable for our own work, and the survival of the organization depends on us. So, I mean, that's overstated, obviously, but it's that kind of understanding that we are expected to be fantastic. The second one, and that's why you don't impose things from an external perspective, is the idea of personal commitment. Every single person in that team realizes that they have a role to play, understands that role, have committed themselves to that role, and in the ideal situation have contributed to determine what they're expected to do and how they're expected to contribute. Think of Rassie Erasmus and the World Cup teams, how he involves players in terms of determining how they do their own bit in a team. Mutual accountability. Now, in the olden days, accountability rested with the CEO, where, we are responsible for our actions, but, when the pawpaw hits the fan, it is the CEO that will fall. It is a significant change from that, guys. Here, you are accountable. You are responsible for your own performance, but you're also accountable when things go wrong. So you step up to the plate when you're performing, and if things bomb, you don't blame someone else. You accept it and you move on. I think I told you guys about Barack Obama, who during his time appointed a finance advisor or something that had corruption charges against him and he didn't know about it. And he stood up and he said, I screwed up. And that's it. As simple as that. I'm not blaming the devil. I'm not blaming the fact that his CV was fictitiously changed. It is that kind of step up. I messed up. I will fix it. Guys, and then shared trust. Now, we've spoken about how trust is such a difficult concept in particular because people just don't trust those around him. Again, in the rugby sides, you look at the levels of trust that the person next to you will do what is expected. And remember, when we look at the definition of trust, it's that belief that someone wouldn't behave in an opportunistic fashion in their dealings with us. And then the leadership roles, but that is important there. The S there, it's not a single leader. Leadership changes hands, guys. We talk about rotational leadership, but within a rugby side, and I see a lot of the teams have now gone and appointed two or co-captains because the game is so complex and there's so many variations on a theme that you now have two team captains. But within that, you've got groups of leaders who do their own thing. So in terms of that, what is quite nice about the assignment is that there is definitely, let me close this. There is definite real evidence of it. Guys, the other thing that I have to give feedback on, and I might as well give it feedback now, and now I'm not talking to everyone. Just be very careful if you write your assignment, give one reference, and then give the example. Remember, you can't just, that's a summary. That's not a critical discussion. That's not an integrated discussion. So you want to have multiple references as part of your theory before you transition to your application. I've not penalized for that at this stage because I think we are still working on expectations. But be careful of just having one theory and then the application, one theory and the application. It's not an integrated discussion. Right, so that 130 marks, real evidence there. You'll see that it fits so perfectly into that model. Any questions? Any comments about that one? Okay, let's do the next one. Yeah, as I suspected, Richard Branson as charismatic leader. I think it's the next bit here, actually. Yeah, charismatic leader. Let me just get to it. So there is charismatic leadership. It is really vested within the personality of that individual. It's that kind of individual that gets people to perform above and beyond in terms of even what they would expect from themselves. So we see a lot of charismatic leaders. There are risks with charismatic leadership where it goes to the negative. We know, for example, charismatic churches and leaders and pastors that enrich themselves at the expense of the congregants. So there is a chance that this is a risky place. I think charismatic leadership, I think depending on who you are, Donald Trump is charismatic, but he's, for me, toxic charisma. To me, there's a toxin element to that charisma. So a couple of things. Yeah, it's that term there, divinely inspired gift. Remember, Trump considers himself to be appointed by God to make America great again. Imagine the arrogance of that. And then just it's this idea of people thinking that this guy is special. So again, when you describe yourself as being divinely, I don't know, placed by a higher power, I think that's the opposite. That's when you think you're extraordinary. Yeah, and then other bits and pieces, the different approaches. So the first one, I think, in terms of the behavioral approach, it really is about behaving in a way that suggests you're competent, that you model certain behaviors that suggest that your personality is strong, that you have these intangible bits and pieces that attract people to you. And then, yeah, very clear goals, high expectations. Again, I can tell you now, our South African rugby team is looking to win the World Cup for an unprecedented third time. And that is where their vision is. And you can see there this constant interaction. And we know that politicians kiss babies and shake, people's hands. Yeah, I would report Trump if he did it to my baby. Guys, and then you can see the kinds of things that go hand in hand. So very powerful characteristic, dominance, the idea of desiring, wanting to be in the position, that need to be large and in charge. And then you can see high levels of self-confidence, and then these moral values. So as despite people believing that Trump has morality, I think he's the opposite. What is nice, though, is how that set of behaviors translates into that kind of effect. It creates an energy, it creates a buzz, it creates an excitement about what this person potentially can do for us, but also what we can do for that person. Any questions at this stage? Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee. Okay. So the first one, in terms of behaviors, the second one, attributes. Yeah, here we try and look behind a person's decisions, their words, etc. And it really is this idea that we try and understand the person better, and then on the basis of understanding that individual can explain why they behave in a certain way. What is their motivation? What are the desires that they have? And the reality is that under certain circumstances, charisma won't work. And that to me is where charisma goes wrong. Again, charismatic churches convincing people to give money. We've had some insane charismatic churches. I'm not going to talk about those. So in terms of attributes, so these are the things that we look for to decide whether someone is charismatic. Clear vision, unconventional ways, all of these Donald Trump ticks these boxes. However, Richard Branson did it first. He ticks all these boxes whenever there is a new product launch. I mean, he has abseiled down buildings. He holds the record for the longest balloon flight. He's crossed, much like the Top Gear guys, the English Channel in a car. So those kinds of things. He's nearly died several times. And then this idea of confidence, and the idea that other people will buy into his beliefs of the future. And the key thing in terms of charismatic leaders make followers feel that they have someone that looks at them as very important, that there's this mutual admiration between the leader and the follower. And you can see the kinds of things that you can work on in terms of an organization. I think the first thing is you can convince people of the rightness that that in terms of what they do. The second one, always a vision, make America great again. And this idea of a collective identity where people essentially will put aside their own identity in order to be part of the collective. And I know someone said groupthink. Be careful it doesn't become groupthink. And then, yeah, the idea of self-belief. Remember, self-efficacy, a belief in your own abilities. So self-efficacy, the idea that somebody who has in the past failed at a particular job succeeds now because all of a sudden they believe they can do it. Right. And then, yeah, guys, in terms of the way people experience it, I think the way people see in terms of an organization doing this job is part of what I need to do. And then lastly, I think it's this idea that there's some ideological component and we do this because we want to make a difference in the world because it is the right thing to do. Okay, so that is question whatever that is. So learning unit, has anyone tracked what I said the slides were? So learning unit 2 still, golly, slide 28 to 37, slides 28 to 37. Right, and then the next one. Yeah, and then transformational and transactional leader. Somewhere here, we've got transformational leadership. So here again, you can see a link between transformational leadership and charismatic leadership. These kinds of things happen during charismatic leadership as well. But the intention here is that it's about changing, whether it's a country, whether it's a system, whether it's an organization, whether it is a process. So when we look at transformational leadership, I think it is about this. The world has gone insane and organizations need to be light on their feet. And to be light on their feet, you have to be adaptive. And we know that it's about learning, etc. And you can also see the clear focus on a vision that inspires. So again, very similar to charismatic leadership. This is an important slide, guys. So slide 24. So we're looking at learning unit 2, slide 21, from slide 21 onwards. The idea that this person has these idealized behaviors, Mandela coming out of prison and forgiving people. This is the kind of person that convinced the 1995 World Cup rugby squad to win the World Cup, even though they were not anywhere near the best team in the competition. They get people to challenge their previous assumptions. Remember Invictus, where he appointed ex-security police to become his security detail. And then just that moment in Invictus where he goes and he meets the cleaners at the back of the hall and introduces himself to them as if they are as important as the VIPs in front of the hall. And then idealized attributes. This is an individual that became a world leader, and it's something to aspire to. It's something to admire. Guys, and then transactional leadership, which is very much Donald Trump. Give us your power stations if we get the war with Russia sorted out. Yeah, to pay us back for the money that we've given you in your war against Russia, give us access to 50% of your rare minerals. We sort out Gaza as long as I can turn it into Gaza, making it I don't know, something, making it very similar to a holiday resort. So in terms of transactional leadership, so it's very much the idea of give and take leadership, contingent reward, making sure people understand what is expected, and then rewarding if they achieve it. The second one is the idea that if somebody does something well, you maintain a line of sight between what that person's done and your rewards for the person. I don't like this one. This is a catching people when they do something wrong. The first one is catching people when they do something right. Yeah, so nothing dramatic there. So it slides, whatever I said initially, 21 to 26. Any questions on that one, guys? Neil, thanks so much for posting those page numbers. Okay, I'll stop the recording if you've not got any questions. I think we can move on from here. Just give it a second to load and then I'll start.